All right, in this video, we're going to talk about the static mix. If gain staging is the boring secret behind every great mix, the static mix is the next boring secret behind every great mix. We need to continue to manage level. If I can make a point here, and if you get this, I think mixing will be a lot easier for you. All we're trying to do when we do anything in a DAW with faders or plugins is we're trying to manage level in some way, shape, or form. The level of the actual track, the level of a certain frequency, the level over time, the level through some processing. Everything is level and gain management. And so it's a game of keeping everything at the optimal level that the listener can enjoy the song. So before we even grab a single plugin and throw it on this track, before we do any kind of automation on this track, we want to make sure that each track is at the appropriate volume level and volume setting on the individual most basic tool you have, which is the volume fader. Okay? We sometimes overcomplicate mixing because we think, oh, let's EQ this, oh, let's do this, let's get a compressor on everything. Yes, we're going to do those things, but the problem is if we do those things to a track that's not at the right level, we're kind of digging a hole and digging deeper into it, and we're backing ourselves into a corner. You can get a really good sounding mix just by balancing the faders and the pan pots. Most people just skip over this. And what I have found over many years of mixing is, let's take the bass, for example. I can find myself frustrated that my bass doesn't sound fat and full, and I'm trying to compress it and add saturation and tweak the EQ settings. And then out of frustration, I just start all over. I take all the plugins off and I turn the volume fader up just 3 or 4 dB on the bass, and all of a sudden the bass sounds bigger and fuller. Go figure. It was just too quiet. And that is the big lesson before we do this, is that the static mix, volume, adjusting the volume here, is your first line of EQ. This decision of where you put this volume fader for each track affects the tone. It affects the way we hear things. Things that are louder have a little bit more bass response and top end response. Things that are quieter sound a little bit more distant and rolled off. It affects the way we are going to approach EQ and compression. It affects the way the listener hears things. It affects how you hear and respond to the track. So this is your most important creative mix move beyond the gain staging we just did. This is when you start to get creative because you can create a balance that you like. You can create a static mix that you like, and that might be different than what I like. That's the creative element of it, but it's still the most important decision you make before you grab plugins and EQ and effects is, where are we going to place the vocal? Where are we going to place the piano? Where are we going to place the acoustic guitar too? And not only volume-wise, but pan. Is it going to be on the left or the right or up the middle? And how much to the left and the right? Is something balanced on this side versus the right side? Do I have holes in the mix? We're going to take care of all of that without a single plugin. And I find this to be the most liberating and funnest part of the mixing process because you're starting from scratch and you don't worry about plugins. You don't worry about screwing up the EQ or compression. You're just going back to imagining you have a console in front of you. Imagine there's a live band in front of you and you're hearing the live band play the song. You say, hey guys, play the song. And I'm just going to balance the faders and I'm just going to create a balance and a mix as we go. And so, in fact, I don't have time to do exactly this on this performance, but I like to loop the whole song. So let's say we got a 3.5 minute song here. I would loop the whole song, press play, let it loop over and over again, and just start to play with the faders, creating a balance. And I'll do this for about 20 to 30 minutes or more, because as the song plays through, you might adjust the volume of something, you might adjust the panning of something, and you'll be finding that sweet spot where the tracks really need to be. Now, we're going to do this right in front of you in 1 second, but final caveat before we do a static mix is you may not have a perfect place for the volume for, let's say, the vocal or the piano or the bass. You might find yourself fluctuating between two volumes that are ideal, like the vocal sounds too loud in the verse and too quiet in the chorus or whatever. That might be an indicator that we need to do a little bit of compression or probably automation down the road, and we'll cover that as well. But you want to find the place where the track is the perfect volume and pan for 85% of the song. It's the 85% solution to this, okay? So don't worry about, I'm a perfectionist, okay? If you believe in the Enneagram or you follow that personality test, I'm a 1 on the Enneagram. I am the perfectionist. And so this kind of thing would kill me, but I've learned to tone my perfectionism down a bit and just be okay with the 85% rule here. We're just trying to find the place where, yeah, that probably needs to be at that volume for most of the song. Let's leave it there. Yep, that's probably the best pan position for that track for most of the song. 85% of the song, we'll leave it there. And all the fine tuning we can do in a later phase where we do automation. So that being said, what I like to do is actually pull all the faders down. I'm going to do an all group so I can pull them all down. Get my master fader back up. Whoops. Turn that back off. I like everything to be down so that I'm not starting with all the level. I'm starting with no level, and then I slowly add things into the picture. That helps me have a more conservative output level in the end. I find that if I start with all the faders at 0 and then start to tweak from there, I've got too much signal hitting my master fader. So I'd rather just bring up only what I need. And I'm just going to start at the beginning of the song, and I'm just going to let the song play through once or twice, and I'm going to just adjust all the tracks that I can. This is a complex song. It's got a lot of tracks, but I think we can get there. And at the end, we'll take a look at what I did.
Live the life I've always wanted. Young kid in a city of wonders. Thought I knew, but I didn't know nothing. New life awaits me, here I go. Here I go. Far away from the shadows to a place where I belong. I'm gonna stay here. At this point there's no turning back now. Time stops and I'm standing on the edge, 2 steps from falling. Feels like I'm flying, here I go. pocket, left alone with no money in my wallet to live the life I've always wanted. Young kid in a city of wonders, thought I knew but I didn't know nothing. New life awaits me, here I go, here I go. Oh, far away from the shadows to a place where I belong. Born again, see me.
Let's listen to the toms, make sure I got those panned right. Listen to the overhead. So the high tom is left, floor tom is right.
Time stops and I'm standing on the edge, 2 steps from falling. Here I go. Born again, I'm running free tonight. Oh. I don't really know how I got.
So there we go. I'm just, playing with the song, tweaking, and that's what you want to spend time doing. Like I said, 20 to 30 minutes minimum to just play around. And you see in the end, even at a rockin' part of the song, I'm not clipping. At most, I'm peaking at -2. And that's pretty high. I would say, peaking around -6 would be ideal, but as long as you've got some headroom, you're fine. If we really found that we got a good balance, but it was still a little too hot overall here, then we could make an all group, right? You could group everything together and you could pull it all down and it stays relative to each other. And then you're in a better spot. I'll take off the all group, bring the master fader back up. Now we have more space. And now we're peaking perfectly at -6. Do you see how we did that? We started by everything being down, pull everything up from there so that we're not starting from too much gain, balancing everything. I'm playing with panning, but I would spend longer. I would keep looping and keep tweaking. And if I don't know what a track is, solo it for a minute to make sure I hear it. And then, okay, make sure I can hear it with the fader and the pan. Refine, refine, refine till I have what I think is the optimal, ultimate balance with just volume and pan. And I love this. I love this because the song starts to come together. And if you don't feel the low end, turn it up. If you don't feel the kick drum, turn it up. If there's too much strumminess on the acoustic guitar, turn it down. If the lead vocal is just overdriving, it's a little too loud, turn it down. If you don't like the guitars being on the left, put them on the right. Flip-flop with the keys. Make the pianos mono and put them somewhere. Experiment. Try something. Go, you know what? That doesn't sound as cool. Go back. There's only the variable of volume and pan. And it makes mixing simple And it forces you to create a really good balance without all the dumb stuff that processing can do to your mix. And while you're doing that, you watch your master fader, you watch the gain, and you make sure that you're not clipping for sure, but that you're not getting a ton of signal up here. You want to peak at maybe -6, maybe -5. All the levels should be averaging below that, but the peaks are fine if they get up there. But -6 is a great place to be peaking. If you get a good balance and it's peaking louder, do what I just did. Group all your tracks together and then pull them all down by 3 dB or something. And then you got the same mix balance, but it's a little quieter. If you can't hear the mix, please don't turn it up here on the fader. Turn it up on your headphones or on your audio interface, on your speakers. Grab the physical knob and turn that volume up so you can hear what you're doing. And if it's too loud, but the signal looks good there, turn the volume down on your speakers. The volume you hear it at and monitor at is totally different than the actual gain inside of your software and coming to the converters, I should say, in your interface. This is important. This is why we use meters, is to monitor that level. We already have better gain on the actual track level, and now we should have better gain hitting our mix bus even more because we've turned things down a bit. Not everything is at the same volume, and we've also created a musical balance with our best and first representation of the tone before we do any plugins or any processing. I call this the static mix because it's the mix that doesn't move. It doesn't have any moving parts. There's no automation. There's no fancy processing. It's just if you had to just set everything and forget it, set the volume fader in the pan and walk away and let it stay static, it doesn't move, create a good mix that way. This exercise will set you up for success. You'll have a much better foundation for when we bring in any kind of processing, all right? Please, please, please do the static mix. Have fun with the static mix. Set a timer, 20 to 30 minutes, loop the song, and do this. I promise you, it'll change the way your mixes turn out for the better.